This thing on, welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. That just made my hangover a hell of a lot worse. I drank so much wine last night. It isn't going to end well. I've got a whole day ahead of me. But anyway, right, you don't care about my drinking habits, right? You're here to enjoy Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily. John Aaron Garza. John Aaron Garza right now. Who is he? Who is he? Well, we've spoken about him before. John Aaron Garza wants to be a Twitter celebrity, and he's found a way of doing it. He's found a way to wind up Snyder stands. Now, you know where I am. I love Batman v Superman. I love Man of Steel. I'm not a hardliner. I'm not obsessed or anything, but I love the movies and I would love to see the Snyder Cut. That's where I am. But John Aaron Garza wants to be famous, and he did very well by winding the fans up about that it would take $40 million to finish the Snyder Cut. So now he's come up with Ben Affleck was mad at Zack Snyder for not taking a harder line with Warner Brothers. This exploded, of course. Now, my opinion of this is it doesn't really matter. And Ben Affleck wouldn't have had any justification to be mad at Zack Snyder. Let me explain to you why. Zack Snyder wasn't running anything. Zack Snyder was working for one of the biggest, most powerful studios in Hollywood. And if they tell you to rewrite your script because you're too dark and brutal, you know, Zack Snyder's first Justice League script was fucking R-rated. R-rated, right, basically. You're not going to get an R-rated Justice League. Warner Brothers wanted a family movie. They were promised that Justice League, Zack promised them that Justice League would be a lot lighter and more family friendly. And he didn't honour that. He didn't. This is the problematic situation with what happened. We could talk about it as one-sided and as Warner Brothers interfering and throwing him out and, you know, bringing in Joss Whedon, which was wrong. They should have just let him do what he was going to do, put the film out there, and then move on with what they're doing now. But what they did was somewhat problematic. They wanted to take his stuff, reshoot it, and try and make a family movie out of it. That was never going to work. Anyway, right. So basically, because Zack rewrote his script, Garza is saying that Ben Affleck was pissed with him, and that's why he left the franchise. Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday, and I don't really want to give Garza the kind of limelight, but I do think it's important to explore these things because it is nothing. Why is this relevant? Who cares if Ben Affleck was mad at Zack Snyder? At this point, why does it matter? And you know how I would say to Snyder stands, you know, I spend time with a lot of important people within this industry, and I try and convince them that we aren't a toxic community. We're not a bunch of religious nutters. We're just people who respect the film director who loved what he did with the DCEU and just want to see his final movie, his vision. That's it. But when you guys do something like this, when Garza does something like this, you ruin everything. Everything. Because you come up with an irrelevant fact. I couldn't give a fuck if Affleck wasn't talking to Snyder. At the end of the day, Affleck had alcoholic problems. Alcoholism is a disease. He had marital problems. He had a lot of issues. So whether or not he wasn't talking to Snyder in the end, or he thought that Snyder should have taken a harder line with Warner Brothers, and I think Snyder tried to take a harder line. He did. And I think he took a harder line with Batman v Superman. He took a harder line with Man of Steel. But Justice League, he broke a promise. He said that, you know, by the time we get here, it will be kind of like the Return of the Jedi of the franchise. You know, Superman's gone through everything he's gone through. He's now the Superman, you know, we want him to be. You know, he's had his training. He's gone through this. He's been killed by Doomsday. He's been resurrected. And now he's that lighter, brighter Superman. Zack did promise a lighter movie. And then him and Chris Terrio wrote something else. I don't lose any respect for Zack for this. He's still a great visionary filmmaker. But I'm afraid the Justice League wasn't a place for chopping people's heads off. Now you talk about Thor chopping, Thanos' head off, and I'm happy about that. But the difference is, because a lot of you Snyder stands and say, yeah, but look what Thor does to Thanos in Avengers Endgame. Yes, that's all well and good, but they have got the goodwill of the public through 20 other movies. The DCEU didn't have any goodwill and couldn't afford to do that. And this is why, when you're talking about something on Twitter, you need to explain the full, every angle. So ultimately, what Garza has stated about, Affleck being upset with Zack may be true, may not be true, but it's so irrelevant. It's so immaterial. And why even mention it? Because he knows. He's a clever bloke. He knows what he's going to do. He wants to be a Twitter celebrity. He wants to be this controversial figure within the Snyder Stan community. And he is, but he's not a controversial figure. Because he's talking a load of rubbish and mostly embarrassing himself. And you know what? Being well known within this community isn't a big deal, because it isn't really a big community. We're not talking about Entertainment Tonight here. We're not talking about someone that everyone is talking about. We're talking about a really, really little community who's trying to get a cut of a film that should have been released in the cinema, released onto at least home video. And John, you're embarrassing us. You're embarrassing us because you're bringing out characteristics within people which embarrasses the movement. Now, I want to read some tweets from Will Rowland, an actor, a UK actor, who was behind Project Comic-Con and is behind a lot of the things that they're doing to try and get the Snyder Cut released. Now, Will seems like a really placid guy, but here he's really losing it about Garza, and I'll read you his tweets. Well and good, Eric. He's responding to somebody's tweet. But here is the problem. As usual, something negative and divisive is said right at the point of positive hype, almost as if an attempt to distract from the hype. The thing today by Garza, yet again, has no purpose to say, as I've already said. Right, he continues, absolutely no benefit in saying it other than to cause division and or attention. Another piece of apparent info that he can't talk about, but can't help but say, then immediately refer to, if only you knew what I know. It's like, why if you cannot say something? It's true, he doesn't know anything. He's talking utter bollocks. Why say anything at all, unless, of course, you want the attention? Yes, which is what he wants. Not once during PCC did he write his own supportive tweet or promote it. He retweeted the plane video and an article, but not once used his platform to give his opinion or support. Every other Snapchat supporter, Snyder Cut supporter seemed to. Zack related the dark side image straight away. If I told you what Zack really meant, he would be the enemy. Why? People are getting sick of it. Constant me, and I know better than you comments with zero evidence to back it up. It's like he's simply trolling. The movement, I've been told he reached out to Zack and basically got it ignored, and ever since then has become very negative towards the Snyder Cut. So past work points solely to personal goals. He refuses to say where he gets his info and then plays the victim and never responds. 6. Directly to anyone who asks a genuine question, we are all expected to take his word without question. It's tiresome and boring. Either get behind fighting for the Snyder Cut or not. Stop putting others down. If you knew what I knew, bollocks has run its course. Appetite for attention, exaggerating importance, expectation of special treatment, seeking praise, and expecting others to just go along with what they want are all traits of a certain personality. There is absolutely no need for the constant shit stirring. So to randomly come out with Ben is pissed at Zack, which is why he left, was written for effect. It's utter nonsense. He left after Zack. He left after the issues with his script, etc., and the outcome of JL. So your Fred Eric, although noble, should be aimed at stopping doomsdayers and trolls from seeking attention and causing a negative narrative. Name a source of it's all BS. Sorry, rant over. can only bite my tongue for so long. So then someone says, actually, Will Garza did use his platform, his Real in Motion podcast, to regularly talk about and support Project Comic-Con, but not his own account. Will Rowlands responds. And his main focus is the YouTube stuff, Twitter not so much. Will Rowlands, unless it's to tweet some obscure claim of info to cause division, i.e. like today, or to tweet I called it, etc. yawn. If it's not self-promotion on Twitter, it's belittling everyone else's efforts. Narcissistic. Well. Will Rowland, who's a really calm individual, who's done so much, to plug the Snyder Cut, to get this movie released, to get Warner Brothers to come to the table and meet us in the middle and try and get, Snyder's vision released. So we can see the Snyder Cut. He's been doing great work. Now, I think he's right. John Aaron Garza is just trying to get some attention. It's all very well saying, yeah, well, this makes sense and that makes sense. Do you know what? We could all say a bunch of crap that sounds true, but ultimately it doesn't matter. But he's going to do it. He's going to continue to do it because it's garnering attention. It's garnering videos like this. And the truth is, like I said on the top of the show, something tells me that John gets a very, very big erection when people are talking about him. So do yourselves a favour, because after this video, I won't be talking about this anymore. Ultimately, this embarrasses this movement and this fandom. It shows us to be a bunch of amateurs who are never going to get what we want because there's too much infighting, and it's embarrassing. And ultimately, as much as I want to see the Snyder Cut, as much as I love MOS and BVS, ultimately this kind of thing will make me kind of distance myself from a lot of the people in this fandom. As I said before, there's mostly brilliant people in this fandom and movement, but always in life, there's always the few who, mess it up for the rest. So, John Aaron Garza, it really doesn't matter if Ben left because of Zack or because of Warner Brothers. Let me tell you a fact. I bloody sneezed. I can't believe that. Oh my God. See what you made me do, John Aaron Garza? You made me sneeze, you made me cough. Anyway, yeah, before I go, right, and sort this out, this is what I think. The whole DCEU thing was a mess from the very beginning, despite me liking Zack's 2 movies. Despite that, bringing in Christopher Nolan, who they wanted to run the franchise, but couldn't be asked to run the franchise. So instead of saying, no, I can't do this, he said, yeah, all right, I'll oversee the thing, then I'll move on. So then he brings Zack Snyder. The studio didn't want Zack Snyder. The studio worked with Zack Snyder before, and they didn't trust it, but they went with it because it's Christopher Nolan, right? So what Chris did, he put in a mediator, David S. Goyer. And look, the whole situation was messy. And then we get to Justice League, and Snyder's making this really dark movie, and Warner Brothers want a light family movie. So there's no coming together. The whole thing was a mess. They wanted rid of Snyder after Batman v Superman, and, Nolan and Goyer are putting out fires. The whole thing is messy. But now we have proper leadership with Walter Hamada. It's working. It doesn't matter whether you love Zack and Ben's Batman or not. That is immaterial. I love MOS. I love BVS. But the truth of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, this is a marriage that should never have happened.